Hello, welcome to the PCC, the Pop Culture Cast. PCP Clash? I'm sick, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still recovering. That's why I've not been in last week. Yes, I'm Marcus Beer. Who's this?
I'm John Santo, Santo, John.
Michael Huber.
There you go.
Hi, everyone.
The Hubes. The Hubes is in the house.
So bad. That's horrible. I can't believe you got stuck with that. Oh,
And-
well.
Sorry, the
I've heard
Hubes.
worse.
So we had a whole schedule, and it was all tight and put together, and Elise had done a brilliant job in corralling us. And then, of course, Marvel went and released the Captain America trailer this morning for Winter Soldier. And not only that, they released 15 seconds of X-Men.
It's almost like a Vine.
Yeah, it's an Instagram
Singer,
video.
Yeah, Singer put it out to kind of counteract. I don't know why he decided to throw it out there after the Captain America trailer came out, but it's a non-official, basically.
Yeah. So, on Instagram right now, there's about 12 to 15 seconds of Days of Future Past, which we'll discuss in a minute. But let's talk about how fantastic the Winter Soldier
It looks incredible.
trailer is.
Yeah, it's a great trailer. It is a great trailer.
I mean, it ticks all the boxes.
Yep.
Chris Evans is really growing into the role. It's his
Yeah.
third outing as Captain America. It's got the Winter Soldier, who looks exactly, as he should from the comic
Badass.
books.
Yep.
It's
the
got-
last shot with the Winter Soldier is just great. The catching the shield.
He's
amazing.
It's got multiple helicarriers.
Yeah.
It's like they've gone to Walmart.
And not all of them do well.
No. Some of them, I've got some really bad drivers.
Yeah.
And then Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the biggest thing for me that really just elevated it all, was Robert Redford being in this, authoritative, like I'm the wise guy, kind of giving orders.
But yeah, I mean, and this is the thing. What is Robert Redford's role in this? I mean, he seems to be the agitator in chief.
Right.
Where he is, I don't know whether he's a psychologist or he's somebody who spends a lot of time talking to Steve Rogers and preying on, some of the things that came through from the Avengers.
Right. Well, I think there's that whole. I think he's going to be he's going to represent what it is that we don't like about America right now. There's always been this great debate about, is Captain America an outmoded character now? Is he outdated? Is what he stood for kind of bullshit nowadays? And there's the great line in the trailer about, this isn't freedom, this is fear.
This isn't freedom. This is fear.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is such a great encapsulation of politics today and how I mean, we've just gotten through America being taken hostage through government shutdown kind of scenario, and it's going to happen again probably. But it's a great, I don't know. So I think Redford's character to me feels like he's going to be the fearmonger type of character. I think he's going to be kind of in that position.
Yeah. I mean, this
Doing, quote, what's best for the people.
It seems like they've taken a lot of cues from the Civil War books.
Right.
I mean, and not only stylistically with regards to this climate of fear, because I mean you do see Steve Rogers as a man at a time, and you do see him as somebody who is against registration and how it harkens back to Nazi Germany and the treatment of the Jews. But then also in some of the action sequences, and we discussed this earlier, the elevator takedown.
Yeah.
That's in
Apparently, fights in elevators are getting big. I think that's the new trend. It seems like, but
It has like a Bourne vibe to it, just the fighting and stuff.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that just looks so cool. But then, of course, we have, this feels, and we've had this discussion so many times on the show, that this does feel like a political thriller from the 70s, which is what they've said they wanted to make.
Right.
And, that's what elevates this. I mean, it doesn't feel like a superhero movie.
No, it feels more like a spy thriller in an odd way. It also
Emphasis on guns.
Yeah, it also seems to be the first film of the series that is still involved with the Avengers, if that makes any sense. It's because Iron Man makes reference to it, but it's really very distant from it. Thor feels like it's probably got nothing to do with it, but this still has that attack on New York. He's still you've got the helicarriers.
Because of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Black Widow's in there.
Yeah.
You've got S.H.I.E.L.D. floating around in there and everything like that. It feels like it's still very much tied into the Avengers.
Yeah, and it's almost feels like what happened in the Avengers is the Marvel equivalent of almost 9/11.
Yeah.
And that
this
climate,
is the political aftermath of
which
that.
is, as you said, which is what we're experiencing now worldwide. I mean, it's in everything. I mean, there's this line. It's like it's making you afraid of everything.
Yeah.
And turning people against people, and by making people afraid of each other, that's why the more draconian laws can come in. And
Yep.
I'm really interested. I think there's going to be a lot of people really offended by this because, they equate Marvel, they equate Captain America and superheroes as kiddie stuff.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to go to this, take their kids, and they're going to be, this isn't what we're expecting.
Right.
And I think it's a good thing. I mean, it worked well for Batman, becoming a crime drama with a superhero, doing a political thing with Captain America, this icon. As you said, is he a man at a time? Well,
Right.
guess what? He's a man at a time, and there were, he stood for something. He stood for something clear.
Right.
He was the line in the sand.
Right.
And now we're, with drones and everything, we're all crossing, those lines are being crossed on a daily basis with cyber hacking and NSA.
Yep.
The NSA hacking the email of the Mexican president. I mean, there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on there. I'm just stoked. I mean, I am still disappointed by Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
It seemed like an
That's your stance.
Yeah, it seemed still like an exercise in masturbation for Robert Downey Jr. and Shane Black, where they just wanted to dick around with Marvel's money. This and Thor. I mean, the Thor trailer. Thor comes out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I am still so stoked for Thor because it looks like it takes itself seriously enough. Yes, you're going to have the humor, you're going to have that, but it looks like it's going to be a good Thor movie. And this one, again, is great.
I just wish in the trailer they wouldn't show the big set pieces, because like Iron Man 3, they showed the plane, so the whole movie you're waiting around for the big plane sequence, and then in this they show the helicarrier going down. So the whole time you're going to be waiting for that. I think it'd be way more impactful if you were just in the theater watching the movie and all of a sudden this massive helicarrier,
piece,
however
right.
it goes down. I know
we
got to
don't-
market it. And
I think honestly, they because they've tipped in advance that there's more than one helicarrier, helicopter too. We don't. I think that's only going to be a tiny part of it, so that might be a tiny part of that set piece. Because I've got a sneaking suspicion there's going to be a lot more
bigger
helicopter. Yeah, I can't even say it. Helicarriers wobbling around. I can't wait for next year. So yes, are we all feeling good and fine and dandy about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the most exciting thing I've seen trailer
and
wise
such
in
a
a while.
cool thing for a sequel. I know Captain America was in the Avengers, but if you just took Captain America 1 and 2, going from the 40s in the past
Right.
to now modern
Right.
day, it just works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this has been the one that everybody's had the can they make him work? I mean, he even references it in the Avengers as like is the Stars and Stripes a little passé, and they're nailing it. Somebody else who might be nailing it.
I'm gonna see. Because we're on different sides of the fence on this one. Because I was not impressed with the
And I'm in the
X-Men
middle.
Days of Future Past bit that we saw.
I
I got the sense that you were.
I'm impressed because I'm coming at it from the thirsty man in the desert.
Okay.
Who sat through X3, who sat through X-Men Origins Wolverine, who was kind of okay with the second Wolverine movie, who actually kind of liked First Class.
I really enjoyed First
First Class had to grow on me. First time I watched it, I was like, ugh.
Right.
And then repeat viewings on TV and on Blu-ray, it's really grown on me.
Right. So to clarify really quick, because it was Bryan Singer, after the Captain America trailer was released, Bryan Singer released a Instagram. Is that what
Yeah,
it was officially?
it's an Instagram video. It's about 12 to 15 seconds long, and it's a bunch of little
Quick
jump
little
cuts.
images, yeah.
But there's Wolverine, there's Magneto. Beast looks a lot better.
Yeah.
He does.
I mean, just that moment alone, it's 1 second, but it's Ian McKellen, Magneto, Patrick Stewart, Professor X, and Hugh Jackman Wolverine, them just standing there.
Yeah.
That alone for me just has me hyped already.
And it has me way more hyped than the post-credit sequence on the last Wolverine movie.
Fair. And you were was it you or Jeremy that was really big on that one? It was Jeremy, right?
I think Jeremy liked it. I didn't.
Didn't? Okay, that's what it was.
I was kind of down on that one, unfortunately. But no, look, I trust Singer. I think he did enough with X1 and X2 to really justify some love in The Usual Suspects. We can put the debacle that was Superman Returns
Right.
to one side.
Right. I like Valkyrie. I thought actually
Von Stauffenberg.
nobody gives Valkyrie enough.
No,
credit.
Valkyrie was
it's a solid little piece of work.
It's a solid movie, but on the superhero credentials.
I gotta
So
stop doing that.
yeah, look, I'm still looking forward to it, and I mean, I think the only unknown quantity now for Marvel next year is Guardians, and they've just wrapped.
Right.
I really want to see some Guardians of the Galaxy
Oh,
footage.
we'll get that probably. I bet $10 says trailer at Christmas.
I'd say I'd expect a trailer before Thor.
For Thor. We'll see. Yeah. And then the official X-Men Days of Future Past trailer comes out next Tuesday. Yeah. Comes out on Tuesday. So
we'll also probably see before
very
Thor
soon. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But Marvel again, nailing it.
Yeah.
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 We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Now it's time for horror-y type stuff because Halloween is just around the corner. And the next episode will be going out after Halloween. So this is pre-Halloween. So we're going to talk about horror movies. We're going to talk about our favorite stuff. And we're going to talk about...
Are you a Hitchcock bird?
I don't know. I'm just. It's like those shitty. Did you ever have? I don't know if they still did this, but like back when I was a kid, they would have LPs of stupid Halloween sound effects and stuff like that.
You can actually download them now on iTunes. They're on the yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kick off. I mean, so we've got a couple of things here that we're going to lead with, and what to you makes. I'm going to go first to you, Mike.
Okay.
What to you makes a good horror movie?
It's kind of a tough question because there's so many different types of horror. I'm sure we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but the main thing is if it stays with you. For me, at least. Like after I saw Scream, anytime I heard a phone ring, I thought of Scream instantly. Or, I see a machete and I instantly think of Jason Voorhees, or a butcher knife and I think of Michael Myers. So definitely that. In terms of watching a horror movie, it's all about the stakes. So if I'm, nervous.
The stakes is in not vampire type stakes.
No. If like the character is vulnerable, if because again, there's so many different kinds of horror movies.
I think it's the psychology, isn't it? It's that
making me nervous.
Yeah, and that's the key, I think, to any good horror film. And I think in the last decade, in particular, probably from about the mid '90s on, filmmakers seem to forget that it was all about the psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, we had the slasher stuff in the 80s,
Right.
But then it seemed to get, I'm talking about the Hostels and the Saws.
Sure.
Because even the gore, I'm nervous of the gore. Like, oh my gosh, do I want to see this?
The gore doesn't affect me. It's one of those random things
It was the torture porn though that got you. It was the era of torture porn that really.
It just bored me.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't have us. I mean, and this might be a scary thing, is that I can watch that stuff and it has no impact on me whatsoever. If I watch something like I can't watch ER or anything that involves pseudo real life or somebody else getting hurt. That I can't watch. It freaks me out because it is there. I equate it to that real world suffering. But to me, I think it's all about. It's that psychology is way more, and we're starting to see a little resurgence of that over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think the torture porn, I want to say, started burning out around 2006, 2007-ish is when we kind of started seeing the end of it.
Too many Saws.
And then and then I guess it was it 07 or 08 or was it 09 that the first paranormal activity came out, and that started that got us back into the ghost story, really. That started the haunted house.
Yes.
Kind
Ghosts
of
and demons are
over
back.
again. Yeah. I mean, especially because with The Conjuring this past, that just came out, it made $1 billion.
And I found The Conjuring interesting because it felt like a PG-13 with regards to the amount of scares, because it had so much potential. It was almost as if they were holding stuff back, or they trimmed it down, or it would build, but there wouldn't be a payoff.
There'd never be a release.
I feel like the tone was what made it R. It was just a very dark, bleak tone, whereas PG-13, you're kind of safe. It's more about the pop-out parts.
Right. It's
when
the
this
jump
was
scares.
just a very dark movie.
Well, I like the fact that it was set in the 60s, 70s,
Right.
Because that again taps back into a period where in the 70s I was a kid growing up, and we're going to talk about our top 3 list a little later, but it's interesting to see how many of the films from the 70s and the early 80s dominate our list.
Still, yeah. Well, and I think it's in any top 10 list. We were looking at the Rotten Tomatoes top 10 list.
They just came
75,
out with that, which was really cool. Good
and
time.
their number one was it Repulsion?
Yeah.
Their number one was like a Roman Polanski film from 1968, Repulsion. So it was like, I mean, it's the classic horror, and it's interesting. Horror is one of those genres for some reason that seems to have. It is timeless in a way because Dracula, Frankenstein, the original Universal horror films back from the early 30s, those images still dominate what those creatures are today. It's like Dracula the image of Dracula is Bela Lugosi still.
Yeah.
The cape and the fangs and the dark hair with the widow's peak. Frankenstein is always the green-headed,
Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff creature. Those it's horror really kind of permeates and stays within our culture in a really fascinating way, more than really any other. Comedy is always a who knows what's going to work.
But
horror always kind of has remained the same though.
It's interesting that those three characters, the universal trio, if you will, have all been co-opted and family friended.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Almost to a certain degree. That we talked about I, Frankenstein.
Right.
The Wolfman remake that
Right.
was pretty bad with
nice atmosphere.
Benicio.
The Benicio
With
del Toro.
Benicio,
Yeah. A really nice atmospheric movie, but the film itself just didn't work.
it went flat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Dracula, there's been a couple
Countless.
of reboots on
Right.
that. And then, the other thing about vampires is that they used to be really scary, and then Twilight came along.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for the bestiality. Well, Twilight actually screwed up werewolves as well.
A little bit,
So,
Yeah.
this become almost, South Park nails it, with this fake vampires. There's
Right.
nothing scary about those anymore.
Right.
So we have
It's
to
more
rely...
about like kids feeling alone and wanting to be a vampire. Touching
Yeah,
on
well,
that
the
whole thing.
vampire goth thing's always been about alienation, is about otherness, and it's in the '80s we had Lost Boys, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's always been that modernization of the vampire.
But Lost Boys did it.
Yeah,
in
Near Dark, exactly.
Lost Boys and Near Dark did it so well.
Oh, yeah.
And then Twilight was just shit.
Yeah. Well, that was that's I hate to say it's
Shit.
a kids movie.
Shit.
So, or excuse me,
Twilight's
it's an
shit.
adolescent girl, female fantasy film.
Twilight's shit.
Divorcees. I actually watched all of them. I don't know why. I
Yeah,
do
why
know.
would you do
I do know why. I want to be part of the
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
I want to understand.
I
No,
know the entire
honestly,
story. That
look,
was-
I tried to read the first book. It was so badly written.
Wow, see, I
mean,
didn't
it
go that
was.
far.
I got through like 3 chapters before I thought, you know what, I could use this for toilet paper. But I
started reading it.
I know, well, because
I
again,
need that image. I need a picture of you reading.
I just want
Twilight.
did you buy it at the store? Like,
No,
hey,
no,
oh,
I
excuse
actually-
me,
I
where's the
actually-
Twilight section.
I actually borrowed it from
okay.
from a friend of
From
my
a
wife's
13-year-old
because
girl.
again, I
Sure.
wanted to see what it was about.
Right.
And you got this interest in vampires and werewolves and stuff, and you want to see what it's all about.
Sure.
And it is badly written,
Oh, yeah. It's
dross.
fair, yeah,
And like I said, 3 chapters, and it was like, take this fucking book back before I burn it.
Right.
But yeah, I've watched the movies too.
Yeah.
I've watched them. I've never paid to watch one. I've only watched them when they've been on like HBO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On FX, like 7 times a day.
And
think I saw the
normally I
first
have to do
3
something
in the
else
theater.
while they're on, like perform an appendectomy on myself, because But anyway,
Gotta stay busy. So yeah, Twilight is you're not a fan of Twilight.
I don't think anybody in their right mind is a fan of Twilight.
Eh.
Elise, you're a female. You're
Seen or read any of them.
You've never seen a Twilight movie?
Elise rules.
No wonder you're so out of it. Come on, get with
Not
it.
with it.
So uncool.
guys.
So uncool.
So anyway, what are we going to talk about next?
Well, you know what? Actually, it's so.
It was on you. Yeah. What makes good good
Yeah.
horror?
Oh, atmosphere is the first thing. Horror has always been about reaching into our dreams, our nightmares, pulling in and kind of putting that up on screen. It's always there's always been a societal or political kind of grip in most good horror. I think and it's one of the reasons why I think the torture porn really came into play and became a real big thing. Other than the gore, disgusting factor of it, was that at the time Abu Ghraib had taken place. There was a lot of the waterboarding scandals had started breaking out. There was a lot of stuff about torture in the real world, and this was a way to audiences to kind of express and get it out on screen. I think the zombie craze since the get-go has always had a society, has always kind of been about society,
Family values.
Night of the
values,
or Dawn of the Dead's kind of
Consumerism.
consumer culture. Nowadays, with everybody thinking that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, it's no wonder that Walking Dead and films like World War Z are doing well. It's about the breakdown of society as a whole. So there's always kind of been that political aspect to it. But you yourself, sir, got to actually spend a couple days with a master of horror films, the John Carpenter.
I did back in 2005. I was promoting the PR for Fear.
Right.
And we had basically, we had the opportunity to bring him in, not as a consultant on the game, because he's a gamer, but the idea was that we wanted to push the horror angle on on Fear, because Fear didn't bring lots and lots of gore.
Sure.
But it went for, little flickers out the corner of your eye, or if you turned round at the right time, you'd see something disintegrate behind you, or you'd slip into these nightmare levels, these little scenarios. And we wanted to basically have John Carpenter talk to the press about what makes things scary, because this is the guy who,
Halloween. He started the slasher genre to some extent. He really popularized it.
Halloween,
Yeah.
The Fog,
The Fog. Yeah.
The Thing.
The Thing.
Christine,
Yep. Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness.
In the Mouth of Madness.
Vampire. He did Vampires.
Vampires.
Ghosts of Mars.
Don't like to talk about that.
Escape from New York.
Escape from
Not
New York.
horror, but-
Yeah.
Escape from LA, which we won't talk about.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just interesting to see him, and obviously, he was talking on the round tables with the press and the one-on-ones. But I actually got to sit down with him, and because I was a huge fan anyway.
Right.
And
Did he do nothing but chain smoke the entire time?
we did actually have a area that he could go and sit out, as long as he had his hamburgers, his water.
Nice.
First ever meeting, we met in Hamburger Hamlet on
Nice.
Sunset.
Yeah.
Because that's where he liked to do his deals. But yeah, we just sat and talked, and I mean, I think for him, the thing that came across is it's the psychology.
Yeah.
It is the camera work. It is the darkness. It's the music.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Which is
'cause-
a huge thing. I mean, he does all his own
yeah,
music.
he composes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Halloween
Halloween,
theme
yeah.
tune is
Yeah.
seminal
Yeah.
work. And if you've never
Legendary.
heard the original Halloween theme tune, I mean, anybody of a certain age, that's going to
Yeah.
freak you out still.
It's up there with Jaws and Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
And, just
Yeah.
being those key themes
Star
of a horror
Wars.
film.
But I mean, that's what I took away from from sitting and talking to him, is that he's a very visual film director, and yeah, he'd put bits of gore in there and stuff when needed, but it was all about the pacing, it was all about the music, it was all about using the imagination, because no filmmaker can top what goes on in people's heads, and that's what he likes to exploit, or he liked to exploit, and it was just so cool. And of course, then there were stories that he would tell me about on the set of The Fog and
Right.
stuff like that, and just all the dirt that I can't relay,
Of course.
because we'll get sued.
We'll talk about it later.
But yes, I gotta say, I mean, I wish that They Live.
Oh, yeah, They Live's brilliant.
Live.
Yeah, They Live's brilliant.
There's a slam on consumerism.
Consumerism and politics,
That's more apt today
Yeah.
than ever before.
Yep.
I mean, I actually wish they would stop remaking John Carpenter's films and just give him a fucking budget.
Yeah.
And just say, go off and make something again.
Did you see The Ward, his last one? It's not a great movie. It's very odd. It's the strangest thing about The Ward is that he didn't do the soundtrack for it, and you realize how much him composing for his own films is part of his movie.
Yeah.
That's so much part of his aesthetic that you have to have that in there. So it felt almost like any other. I'm trying to think of. There was another Psycho Ward movie that kind of came out around the same time, and they're very kind of. It was very. I was
Why
surprised.
do you think you didn't do the soundtrack for that?
I don't know. Tired, lazy, bored, and I don't even think his son did it. I think it was somebody else completely. But yeah, it's fascinating to see in a John Carpenter film how much his music actually is part of what makes a John Carpenter movie a John Carpenter film.
Yeah, and it's during the 70s and the 80s, it was electronic. It
Yeah.
was heavily electronic, and it just fit so well.
Yeah.
I mean, Cronenberg is another one.
Yeah.
David Cronenberg from the 80s, who
Yeah.
was just outstanding in what he
One of my all-time
did.
favorites.
Yeah, I mean, Scanners, Videodrome.
Yeah, well, he really mastered body horror. I mean, that guy nailed body horror, and
Yeah.
I mean, you would freak out.
Naked Lunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would freak out about
Disturbing.
thinking about what could happen to you if this is happening to these people on the screen.
All right, so I think we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to give you each of our top 3 and talk about some other stuff as well.